Today we are going to be discussing whether or not I regret moving to Vancouver, Washington. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. Welcome back to Living in the Pacific Northwest with Hal Byrd. I'm Hal Byrd. If you are new to the channel, I am a realtor and certified relocation specialist in Washington and Oregon, primarily focusing on the Portland metro area and Southwest Washington. And I help people relocate from all over the country. So if you are considering a move, I encourage you to watch as many videos on this channel as you can. I would be happy to help you, whether you want to shoot me a text at 360-818-4438, or you can schedule a Zoom with me below. You can also search for homes on my website, homewithhal.com. You can find all my contact information in the description. The reason this channel exists is because my husband and I relocated ourselves 5 years ago, and there were no useful resources that we found in relocating, and so we wanted to be that resource and that friend for you in the Pacific Northwest. So I hope you enjoy the channel. If that's something you're interested in, make sure to give this a subscribe. I would love it if you like this video and gave it a comment also. Now, the reason for this video is because I've had quite a few people reach out to me and ask a couple questions that were interesting. And one of those questions is, do you still make videos about Vancouver? And yes, here's new fresh content for y'all. 2, do you still like living there, or do you still recommend people relocate to Vancouver? And I get these questions a few times a month to the point where I was like, let's do a video about, do I regret moving to Vancouver, Washington? Just because we've been here now for 5 years doesn't mean that we love it. That's not an automatic guarantee. And so I want to break down in this video some of the things that I was hoping to get out of the move, what came a little unexpected, and kind of give you guys an idea of whether or not I regret moving here. So without further ado, let's get started. I want to highlight some of the reasons that people move to Vancouver, and also some of the reasons that myself and my husband relocated. I help dozens of people a year relocate to this very area, and one of the things that I hear about is that people want to be out here for the connection to the outdoors, the ability to go hiking, the lifestyle that the Pacific Northwest offers. Also, I would say pretty high on that list is the tax advantages, or people moving here for job opportunities. And then I would also say lower cost of living when it comes to living in some other major cities or suburbs of major cities on the West Coast, and primarily through like the southern half of the United States. Speaking of the southern half of the United States, another reason why people move here a lot is weather. I speak to a lot of people who are looking to get out of hot climates, desert climates, climates with a lot of natural disasters. Hello to all my Florida viewers out there, and my past clients and my future clients. So those are some of the main reasons why people move here. And so we're going to touch on those aspects and if they factored into my decision wanting to move here, and kind of what my experience has been. I imagine if you're watching this video, those might be some of the reasons that you're looking to move here as well. Let's also think about what are some of the reasons that people relocate to a new city in general. I would say really common is people wanting to be closer to family or farther away from family. Also, new job, retirement, starting. Like, I have clients that are moving who are first-time home buyers, and they're getting ready to start a family, and maybe they live in a big city and they don't want to raise their children in a big city, so they want to move to the suburbs. A big one I've noticed over the past 2 years is political and cultural moves, where people are looking to escape the politics in a particular area. So I do have a lot of clients who tell me that that's one of the reasons that they're looking to move out of their current city and into a different city. So those are some of the most common reasons that people move. Keeping all of that in mind, number one, the reason that people move specifically to the Pacific Northwest and our area of the Pacific Northwest and Southwest Washington, and also the reasons why people move in general, I think will be really helpful in understanding my personal story. So for my husband and I, we were living in Southern California. That's where I was raised, and he's from the East Coast. There were a couple factors that were motivators for our move. I would say one of them was weather. My husband, being from the East Coast, was used to a lot more rain and snow than we got in a very desert climate in California. And also being a little bit more preparedness minded, we just started looking around and thinking, hey, you know, if a natural disaster happens here in Southern California, this is not the place that we want to be. And that really opened up a journey for us to explore several different areas in the country before settling on Washington, and then looking all over the different cities in Washington and settling in the Southwest Washington area. So if you want to check out our video about our journey to Washington, I'll link it right here for you. Well, the link will be over here, but that's the thumbnail. So those were really big motivating factors. So it's funny when people ask me like, well, why did you move here? And I'm like, well, the weather. And people are like, really? You moved here for the weather? Because it's not what would be considered stereotypical good weather. Like most people would say, beachy, warm, like very temperate weather. Our environment is a very temperate climate. So we don't have as much variation, especially not on a day-to-day basis. The weather is pretty predictable, and it's just a matter of looking at the forecast in any given day and knowing what season you're in, and then wondering, is it gonna rain or not? And we don't have to worry about rain pretty much at all in the summer. We get about 4 months of beautiful, warm sunshine. I always tell people that the summers up here are like San Diego weather, and then the winters are not that extreme. So if you think about living in the northeast part of the country and you hear a lot about snowstorms, our snowstorms are generally maybe a few inches, like 3 to 6. And I mean, you can get 12 inches depending on where you live. The higher elevation you live at, the more snow you're gonna get. Weather was one of the factors for us personally to move here. At the time, we were running a business where we could pick it up and move it anywhere. And so that's what we thought to do. We thought about moving out of the country. We thought about moving to South Dakota and getting land, like massive amounts of land, and living very rurally. We thought about going to Texas. We thought about, I mean, you name it, we thought about it. And so I would say that weather was a big factor, and then preparedness in terms of what area has natural resources that not only can we enjoy if life is grand and everything's going well, but if something crazy happens, I mean, and it doesn't even have to be that crazy. Like Katrina was a huge catastrophe, and we just didn't want to be in a situation where that was likely in a place that we live. Another factor in our decision was population. We were coming from an area in Southern California that was highly dense. Southern California alone has 20 million people in a state that has 40 million people. The entire state of Washington is less than 8 million people in population, and the majority of those people live up north by Seattle and Tacoma and Olympia and those areas. So our entire county has about 500,000 people, and for us, this population size was just the right fit. I guess it's giving you a little hint that we do plan on staying here. So maybe you don't even have to watch the rest of the video. Just kidding. Make sure you like it before you leave though. And then the last thing that we were looking for in our move was to live somewhere. We were thinking, okay, if we're gonna move anywhere in the country, or possibly the world, because we did look outside of the country, we wanted to live somewhere where it was a little bit more tax advantaged than California, which has very high personal and business income tax. Obviously, we're in business, and so that played a factor as well. And we really highly favored states where there were tax advantages that we thought were compelling. We did all of that research. We probably researched for over a year before deciding to come up here and visit. And when we got up here, the first time we drove from California, Jarrett described it as going from seeing in black and white to color television, because if you've ever taken that drive, leaving California, going into Oregon, it goes from being very dry climate, brown, kind of dusty, to this like lush green forest, and it just feels so rich. And so that was the first experience of us coming up here. And then as we pulled into like the Portland metro area, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just this like light feeling. Everything just felt right. And that's kind of the feeling that I love to have my clients experience when they're purchasing a home here, that they feel like this house feels right. So that's also really important to me when I'm working with clients. But for us in our move, I don't know how to explain it other than describing it as like a Cinderella moment where like everything just felt right, or a Goldilocks moment. Then initially after we moved up here, one of the things Jarrett used to ask me all the time was, is there anything that you don't like about it? And he would ask me this probably like a week into our move, 2 weeks, and then it was like maybe every month, like for the first year or so, he would like look over at me randomly and be like, is there anything that you don't like about living here? And I would think about it for a second, and I'd be like, no, like I can't think of anything that I really dislike about being here. And I think there was 2 reasons why he asked me that. I think part of it was like nothing's perfect, but it almost to us felt like it was too perfect. We're like, this is too good. And so I think he was asking me partially for that reason. And the second reason I think he was asking me was because I had always lived in California. I studied abroad when I was in college, but outside of that, I had never lived anywhere else. And I think he also wanted to check to see how I felt about it and make sure that I wasn't having second thoughts. That's kind of was our initial experiences and thoughts. That's not to say that we weren't without challenges when we first moved here. Like I mentioned, we were running a business, and that business allowed us to both work from home, and we had no friends or family up here. We knew 0 people when we moved up here. And so it would have been easy for us to kind of stay in our bubble, work on our business, and that challenge of not knowing anyone became a blessing because it allowed us to go out and find different groups based on our interests. So one of those was running. For Jarrett, that was motorcycles. We started going to geology talks. So we just started to look for activities and events that were going on in and around our interests in the area. And that has allowed us to meet people that are some of the nicest, best people, most reliable friends that we've ever met. And then I would say the third thing that had helped, tell me if you agree, dear, is this channel has allowed me to work with some of my favorite people and become friends with a lot of my clients. And I really find that special, that because I know that I didn't know anyone coming up here, and the fact that we can be the first people that someone knows in a town and, you know, try to make them feel welcome and invite them to events that we're putting on and things like that. It's a very fulfilling part of my job. It was a challenge to meet people at first, but I would say like meetup.com, there's meetups for pretty much everything, every interest that you have. And I think that's one of the easiest ways to meet people, which can be difficult in a new town. And you can also get culture shock when you move, where because you're not used to things, even though you might be moving, you're an American and you're moving from one part of America to another, there are different cultures in not just every state, but in different regions of the state. And so you can have culture shock and be a little homesick. Give it a year. Anytime that I have moved, even when I moved an hour away to college, I had culture shock for the first year. If you do make the move here, I would say give it a year where you can really feel settled in. One of the things that I've really enjoyed and that I wasn't expecting when it came to living here is that a lot of the friendships and connections that you make are going to be interest-based and not career-based. I went to college in Los Angeles at Loyola Marymount University, so go Lions. I felt that living in LA, a lot of the people that you meet will start off, one of the first questions you get asked is like, well, what do you do for a living? Where do you work? Because people are always looking to network and see how you can be some advantage to them. Whereas here, I've made friends and met people and been to their houses and know their kids, and I've never asked what they do. Or I found out a significant amount of time later, because it's just not as important. And I really like that from a value standpoint, that people care more about who you are and what you're into than they do about what you do or who you can connect them to. So we are at the point of reaching a verdict. Do I regret moving to Vancouver, Washington? If you hadn't figured it out already, the answer is no. While it is not a perfect place and there are challenges that not just Vancouver, but the general Southwest Washington region and the Portland metro region experience when it comes to growth, I don't see it as such a big negative that it overshadows all of the positive aspects of living here. Like the fact that we can go on a walk and stumble upon a creek, or that we can meet up with new people every weekend and go hiking, or that we can experience really exciting restaurants, because Portland is a really big foodie town and Vancouver has some amazing restaurants too, and that's something I personally am super into. Or the fact that Jarrett can go out on the weekends and take a windy road, and who knows where he goes, up in the mountains, down to the beach with his motorcycle buddies. It's it just offers such a rich life, and that's something that we were looking for. It wasn't the primary motivation. It was more about getting to a place that we could agree on when it came to weather, and also going back to preparedness, a place that we felt was going to be safe in general. And I mean, safe is relative, but for us, like, we have that feeling of safety that we were looking for in this region. So I was really surprised about all of the benefits and the richness that we get from living here, like going out to free concerts and movies. Washington and this area and the city of Vancouver doesn't nickel and dime you for everything that you want to do. So you've got free parking on the weekends and after 6 p.m. in downtown. They put on events, and it's such a beautiful place to live. It's a beautiful community, and I'm so grateful to all the people who have made us feel welcomed here. And I hope that if you relocate here, I'll be the first person on your welcoming committee, and that you have amazing neighbors and you meet amazing people and make great connections and live a really wonderful life here. That would mean the world to me. And as a matter of fact, once we wrap up this video, we're going to meet one of my clients, a family that relocated up here from San Diego. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to grow and develop our relationships with our clients and go out to dinner and experience things and really make it more than just a transactional experience. So if you're planning a trip up here and you are thinking about moving here, so you're going on your exploratory trip like we did, I would love it if you would reach out to me. I do my best to try to meet with people when they're up here. So if you make the trip and you take that serious investment and you want to get together, I would love to meet you and discuss the pros and cons and what your experience is like, and point you in the right direction when you're visiting here. In this video, we covered some of the main reasons why people move here and move in general, why Jarrett and myself decided to move here, and what our experience has been like in reflecting back on our 5 years living here. If you are making a list of potential places to relocate, I highly recommend keeping Vancouver at the top of your list. And if you need any help at all, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in the Pacific Northwest, make sure to shoot me a text at 360-818-4438. And if you want to reach out to me any other way, all of that info is in the description box below. Thank you for being here. Make sure to give this video a like and a comment on your way out. I will catch you guys next time. Ciao. And this is just a little PS. One of the things that I think is so funny is that in addition to being a foodie and loving trying new restaurants, I also love to travel. And Jarrett has been so happy living here that I have to drag him kicking and screaming to leave the Pacific Northwest. If it's not about like a local regional trip to Leavenworth or Mount Hood or the coast, he is little interested in going anywhere else in the country, let alone in the world. So I hope that if you are relocating with a significant other or another party, that your significant other loves the Pacific Northwest as much as mine does. Okay, that's all. Gotta run.